Real.
Yeah, what's up, fam? So, there are a lot of people that's been talking about separation as opposed to segregation lately, and it's something that I've even talked about that I'll bring up. But basically, what I want to do is explain the difference because when you talk about separation, a lot of people they come out and say, "Oh well, why do you want to segregate? Why do you want segregation?" And segregation is different from separation. There's a big difference. Segregation is by law. Separation is by choice. Segregation says you can't eat in the same restaurant as a white person. What I mean by separation is separating our money and resources so we have our own community. But even in separating, other people would still be able to come to our communities and patronize our businesses. They would just have to spend money with us as opposed to us spending money with them. So that's the biggest difference between separation and segregation. And I think that at this point, uh, it's really necessary. And I know it sounds radical. I know that a lot of people may not want to hear that. They feel like we can still integrate with the dominant society and be competitive. Well, if you think we can integrate with a dominant society and be competitive, just think about a couple things. In a democracy, majority rules. We, as far as population wise, we're a significant minority population wise. We only make up about 13% of the country. So, in a democracy where a majority rules, the minority is always going to lose. So another thing too is this is also a capitalistic society. So when you talk about capitalism, you have to think about who controls the money. Whites control at least 95% of the wealth in this country. So that's also a lose-lose situation when you're talking about integrating with someone who controls the money and is a significant majority. So what we have to do is realize that if we want to integrate, that's pretty much saying that you're settling and you're okay with being second place or third or fourth place. Because if you integrate with a dominant society, you're always just going to get the crumbs off their table. You're never going to be in first place. The only way to be in first place is to set up your own society. But trying to join somebody else's society puts you below them. And for us to be okay with that really should be criminal. I mean, it's insane to me. I mean, what we have to do is separate ourselves, separate our money and resources. And other groups do this all the time. Jews do this, Koreans do this, Hispanics do this, Asians do this. We see other communities that come to America and they build their own communities and they have their own small little towns within a town. Just like, you go to, there's a Chinatown in just about every city. There's a Latino community in but just about every city. And one thing that's interesting is this. We also have to patronize our own businesses because one thing that's real funny that I see is, blacks, especially young blacks, say for example, won't support say a soul food restaurant in their neighborhood, but they'll go to the Chinese restaurant all day. I see Chinese restaurants that really thrive in ghettos, been there for years, because we're quicker to patronize them than our own people. Do you think they would do that in their neighborhood? Do you really think that the Chinese would let a black business even into their neighborhood? Number one, but even if you did go into the neighborhood, you think they're gonna come into your restaurant and spend money before going to a Chinese restaurant? I think not. It's not gonna happen. Never gonna happen. So what we need to learn to do is build our own society so that we don't always have to be second and third and fourth place. And as of right now, we've actually moved down because we used to be in second place. We were the largest minority population for a long time. And now all of a sudden the Asian and Hispanic population has passed us, and at least the Hispanic population has, and the Asian population will be soon. So the dominant society feels like they're gonna pretty much go through them before they even get to us. So if you're okay with integrating with the dominant society, you're saying that you're okay with being in last place. If you build your own society and your own community, you'll put yourself first. You'll put your own interests first. You'll hire your own people, and you'll build something that you can pass down, to your kids and their kids. So instead of us always trying to build up someone else's wealth and build something that they're going to pass down to their kids, we need to focus on building our own. And make no mistake about it, these other groups, they make it a point to do that. They make it a point to hire their own people. They make it a point to only do business with their own people. And they're unapologetic about it. They'll tell you quick, I only do business with other Asians, or we only hire Hispanics, or we only hire Koreans. They're real unapologetic about it. We're the only ones that say, you know what, we want to join with everybody. We feel like everybody lives in America, so we have to, it's important to do for everybody, not just black people. Well, I got news for you. We're the only people who think like that. Other groups do not think like that at all. They don't give a damn about the black community or any other community. They're worried about their own people and their own interests. And that's the mindset we have to get into, is worrying about our own interests. We're so busy worried about other people's problems and interests that, we neglect what's going on in our own neighborhood. We're so busy trying to fight fights that we have no business fighting. We're out there trying to march for LGBT rights and this whole immigration policy that they're trying to pass. And you have to understand that these other groups are competing with you. They're competing with you while you're trying to hold hands and sing Kumbaya and say, let's all join together. At the same time, they're thinking about how to take you out. This is a competition, and we have to be competitive. And I think that black people think backwards. We need to learn how to be cooperative with each other and compete with others. But instead, we have become cooperative with others, but yet we compete amongst ourselves. A black person will see another black person and say, I have to take that person out. That's my competition. Well, you need to be thinking like that when it comes to other groups and other races that are really trying to take you out. Because that's really what's happening. So I just wanted to touch on that for a minute because I'm really tired of hearing blacks on television and on the internet and elsewhere talking about we need to unite, bring the country together and all this. The country has never been together. This country has never been together. And it never will be. People have their own interests. And as far as blacks always voting Democrat, as far as, just like we do, remember one thing. I heard someone say this. We have no permanent friends, no permanent enemies, only permanent interests. So the Democratic Party shouldn't be your permanent friend, and the Republicans really shouldn't even be a permanent enemy. But I will say this. I believe W.E.B. Du Bois said, it's really just one evil party with two names. So if you really think voting is going to bring us out of the condition we're in, let me give you this quick fact. How many Asians do you know that run for office? How many do you know that are in the Congress or in the Senate? How many Asians do you know that have run for president? Hardly none. Yet they have their own communities and they have their own economy. Politics is run by economics. It's run by money. And we all know that. So since we've established that politics is controlled by money, we have to realize how to play the game and how to play the game to win. Politicians could care less about your vote. Politicians don't care about your vote. They're trying to carry out the agenda of their donors. That's who they answer to. They answer to their donors and the people who fund their campaigns. They get your vote to get into office, and then they go carry out the agenda of their donors and the people who fund their campaigns. So what we need to do is come together as a block, raise a certain amount of money and say, hey, here's this money and this is what we want to return. That's how we have to present it to these politicians. That's the only thing that's going to get their attention. That's the only thing that's going to make them act on anything. Not standing in line 5 or 6 hours voting because they exploit the black community. They use our community. We only see them come around every 4 years. We don't see politicians in our neighborhoods talking about anything until it's election time. Why don't they come in our neighborhoods on regular days and teach us how to build wealth in our neighborhoods? Why don't they give us access to some of this government money that's out here that helps people buy homes and start businesses? Why don't they teach us how to get access to that? Because they don't care about that. All they care about is getting your vote and then carrying out the agenda of those who fund their campaigns. So understand what's going on here. We're on our own. We have to do for ourselves because these politicians have failed us, these so-called black leaders that we follow. So that's just my take on the separation versus segregation argument. I think if blacks would have stayed separate, we would have been able to build our own communities because we were on our way to doing that. We built the Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and in Durham, North Carolina, and a lot of other places. We've done it before. We know how to do it. But when we integrated, we took the money out of our neighborhoods and started spending it in the white neighborhoods, and the black businesses went out of business. That's the wrong kind of mindset. That's a disastrous economic model. So instead of giving others our money, we have to realize what our best interests are and do it ourselves. As a matter of fact, I think that if we had our own communities, our own sports league, our own businesses, our own banks, grocery stores, hospitals, schools, our stuff will be better anyway. Everything we would do would be so much better. You know why? Because it wouldn't be all about a profit. We would actually care about each other. We would care about our fellow brother, our fellow sister, and we wouldn't just look at them as a commodity, or as property, or it wouldn't just be about our bottom line. We would actually have our best interests in mind, and we would do what's right for the greater good, because we know it would be in our best interest too. Say for example, medicine. If we had our own communities, our own hospitals, doctors, our own pharmaceutical system, we wouldn't be pumping this poison into our people. We'll be using natural medicine that will heal us, because we would know that, natural plants and natural medicine is healthier for us. Organic medicine and organic products have no side effects. And the pharmaceutical industry and all these other industries are all about profit. That's what black people are to them, profit. You're nothing but a commodity to them. That's why I say if we had our own community, everything would be so much better. The schools would be better. The hospitals would be better. And the reason, like I said, the reason why a lot of these industries are failing, like the healthcare system and the financial system, is because that's all they operate on is profit. Everything is about making a buck. And when you make everything about making a buck, you really overlook a lot of important things that really help the population as a whole. That's when greed comes into play. And that's what we're dealing with in the United States of America, is a lot of greed. And we've been plagued by this greed, and we've been taught that. These white corporations taught us how to be greedy. They have taught us that the more money you have, the higher your status is, the more important you are in society. The higher your status is in society, depending on how much money you have in your bank account. And that's the wrong way of thinking. Your status should depend on what you contribute to society, not what you take from society. And I'm going to end on that note, because I think that's a good note to end on. Peace.